She out-schemed Vect, stole a god's heart maybe, and turned poison into prophecy. This is Lady Malys, the Drukhari queen who weaponizes fate itself. If you've ever wondered how anyone survives Commorragh without being backstabbed by breakfast, Lady Malys is your answer. She runs the Kabal of the poisoned tongue, masters of whispers, traps, and city-wide poisonings that end wars before they even look like wars. Today we're telling her whole story, start to finish, in simple language and brutal detail. Quick favor before we dive in. If you like forbidden truths explained clearly, hit subscribe so you don't miss the next dossier. Picture Commorragh like a city made of knives, built inside a nightmare. In that city, a young Malys didn't just survive. She learned to smile while moving the furniture of power behind the curtains. She rose inside Asdrubal Vect's orbit, not as a disposable ornament, but as a mind worth keeping close, elegant, aloof, razor calm. The sort of person who kills a room with the right sentence and leaves everyone thanking her for the lesson. Her reputation really solidifies during the shadow conflicts people whisper about as the Panacea Wars. Assassins trade toxins and antidotes like playing cards. Armies don't die on the battlefield, they just stop waking up. Malys thrives in that climate. She's courteous, but her courtesy is a scalpel. She makes enemies agree to their own defeat and sends them a thank you note afterward. So why would someone like that leave Vect's side? Because in Commorragh, getting banished by Vect is less a career change and more a creative execution. But Malys treats exile like a promotion. She walks the webway with a small retinue, stepping into corridors where reality forgets to check its mirrors. Then comes the story that turns her into a legend. In the webway, she meets a trickster entity. Call it a jester, a god, or a mask with a heartbeat. It dismisses her escorts with a casual wave. It offers a wager, each of them staking their heart, not a metaphor, the actual heart. Malys accepts. She wins. The trickster dissolves into motes and leaves behind an elegant blade and a crystalline heart that almost seems alive. Malys does the most Drukhari thing possible. She cuts out her own heart and replaces it with the crystal one, binding herself to the deal she just beat. From that moment, rumors spread that she can smell fate like perfume. Plans that should work against anyone else bend around her like a river flowing around black glass. People will argue forever over who the trickster was. Some point at the laughing god and swear the Harlequins nudged the pieces into place. Others say it was a lesser thing wearing a bigger smile. Malys never confirms anything. She just returns to Commorragh with a new calm, a new blade, and the patience of someone who already knows which door will open. Back home, she claims leadership of the Kabal of the poisoned tongue. Her doctrine is simple. Break the enemy before the enemy even knows there is a war. Seed lies where they seem like truth. Poison a city's water, not to kill it, but to make it doubt its own breath. Announce a raid you do not intend to make. Strike where everyone feels safe because you taught them to feel safe there. Her warriors reflect that mindset. True-born units with impeccable discipline. Lhamean poisoners who treat chemistry like love letters. Assassins that feel less like men and women and more like punctuation marks in Malys' sentences. When they appear, the sentence ends. She doesn't hoard territory like a miser. She moves through Commorragh like weather, agitating this cabal against that one, leaning on one Sybarite court while casually praising a rival's fashion choice. By the time the knives come out, she's already off stage, signing the deed to whoever wins, because either outcome was built into her plan. But before we go further, if you're into these deep dives, hit like and subscribe. It tells me to keep digging into the darkest corners of the 41st millennium. There's a grim little story about an orc attack on one of her routes. Malys captures a knob, infects him with a virus that blooms during reproduction, then lets him escape. Weeks later, the orcs are multiplying their own death. No grand battle, just an empty world and a cabal that leaves without a scratch. That is poison tongue warfare. You die convinced, you were never involved. People paint Malys as polite, and she is until the steel comes out. She duels with a blade called the Lady's Blade, a weapon that behaves like it knows where the throat is before the fight starts. She also favors a fan of razor-thin knives. It's pageantry with a purpose. 1 second there's a fan, the next second there are 10 new problems inside your body. Power in Commorragh is a staircase covered in oil. Most archons try to sprint. Malys leans on the railing and lets others fall first. She sponsors puppet cabals that look independent until you see the puppet strings woven through their budgets, their lieutenants and their appetites. Rivals whisper she's weak because she doesn't bellow. Those rivals keep disappearing at dinner. There's an infamous invitation she receives from Vect himself. An elegant meal, carefully chosen guests, knives used for both courses. If Vect invites you, it's never just to talk. Malys attends, smiles, and leaves as powerful as she arrived. That tiny detail says more than a dozen battles. She can dine with the king and keep her crown. Then the galaxy splits. The great rift tears reality like rotten silk. Commorragh convulses through the disjunction and the crisis at Cain's gate. It's the perfect time for the strong to become extinct. Vect allegedly uses the chaos to prune his garden with demon shears. Names with big shadows vanish overnight. Malys sidesteps the whole event like it was a puddle. She had already moved assets into quiet webway cul-de-sacs. Her Kabal bleeds far less than it should. When the smoke clears, she expands, claiming districts that look unclaimed because the previous owners stopped being alive. Scarlet Harbour, Netherdell, places that sound like nightmares before you even visit. Her banners appear, and no one protests loudly enough to stay visible. If you want a picture of how she operates in the wider galaxy, imagine a world where defense forces scramble 3 times in a month for incoming Drukhari raids. Each alarm is wrong in some precise way. The timing, the angle, the target. On the 4th week, when everyone is exhausted and proud of their vigilance, the poisoned tongue arrives through a maintenance tunnel no one remembered existed. The defenders are in the wrong place with the wrong weapons and the wrong map. By the time they fix their mistakes, the raiders have taken the only thing the planet truly needed: data, hostages, a vault key hidden in a genetic marker, whatever makes the next war inevitable. That obsession with the next war is Malys' signature. She's never just winning the room she's in. She is rearranging the furniture in rooms you haven't built yet. Even her so-called failures feel like staged photographs. You can circle every flaw with a pen and then realize each flaw forced you into the exact corridor she wanted. Stories from shipboard raids make the picture sharper. Picture a void hulk, cold and echoing, corridors lit like a dying eye. Arbite squads advance methodically, shields up, vox lines clean. A door opens on the right too easily. A trip line doesn't trigger because it was never real. The real trap is 3 rooms away in the vent that looks welded shut. Malys' agents are already past the checkpoint, not running, just walking like they own the hall, because in that moment, they do. Her relationship with the Harlequins is a thread people pull on whenever they want to feel nervous. The veiled path, masks that turn every plan into theater. Why would they help a Drukhari queen? Because they don't care what you call yourself. They care whether you move the grand tragedy toward the punchline their god prefers. A Malys who can smell the punchline is useful. That's the rumor. Malys never confirms it. She simply acts like someone whose debts are already paid. Let's talk personality for a second. She's not loud, she's not cruel for sport. She is patient, surgical, and weirdly courteous, like a storm that apologizes while it takes your roof. Body language is everything. She listens more than she speaks. When she does speak, people nod before they understand. They think that's charisma. It's gravity. She understands the 2 currencies of Commorragh, pain and anticipation. Everyone knows how to spend pain. Very few know how to spend anticipation. Malys doesn't just make you hurt, she makes you wait to hurt. That delay shatters empires. On the ground, her Kabal specializes in misdirection that leaves fingerprints pointing at someone else. Human investigators blame rival Archons. Rival Archons blame human sabotage. Sometimes she frames both and watches them argue over who gets to be wrong. By the time truth arrives, the only people who care are in cages, heading into the dark. Her equipment mirrors that ethos, finery that distracts. A fan that is also a murder. A sword that behaves like a rumor, always where it isn't supposed to be. Toxins that don't announce themselves. Instead of "you are poisoned," it's "so you made 3 great choices in a row, and somehow all of them were fatal." She keeps her circle small and her leverage wide. Succubi want the spotlight. Homunculi crave their laboratories. Scourges like altitude and contracts. Malys offers each exactly what they want and removes them the moment their desire becomes untidy. Contracts dissolve without witnesses. Debt ledgers rewrite themselves, only the results remain. People sometimes ask, is she stronger than Vect? Wrong question. She's stronger than yesterday. Vect rules the city. Malys rules the angle of approach. Even when he cuts the board, she has a pocket board he didn't see. He knows that. So does she. That's why she's still breathing. When real space raids require a statement, she delivers without breaking her brand. She doesn't drop an entire army on a capital unless the capital has already been hollowed out by rumor. Communications jam a day early in the wrong sector. A governor's favorite aide is compromised by a whisper that never happened. A warehouse burns in a district with no strategic value. The defenders fixate on the fire, while the vault in a quiet medical wing loses a single patient whose blood is a master key. Her victories rarely look impressive on a parade map. No grand arrows, no heroic last stands, just missing people and paperwork that points in 2 directions at once. Her enemies call that cowardice. Then they notice the cupboard where their future used to be. There's a particular image I want you to hold on to. An ornate mask on a pedestal in a dark chamber. Beautiful, ancient, a trophy from a dead rival. The pedestal is slightly off-center. You think that's sloppy interior design. It isn't. It means the room is already a weapon. The wrong person will stand in the wrong place to admire the wrong thing, and the floor will make the final argument. That is Malys in one picture. In the current era, when rules blurbs and model spotlights bring her back into focus, the identity hasn't changed. Knife-sharp wit, relocation tricks that make her feel like she's 2 steps sideways from wherever you aim. Poisons that do more than they should. Every update reads like the same thesis statement written with new ink. She breaks formations before she breaks bodies. Now the big question, did she really cut out her heart and replace it with a trickster god's? Here's the only honest answer. If she didn't, she made the galaxy act like she did. Every plan shivers around her. Psychers who feel untouchable suddenly feel watched by something that grins. Opponents who never doubt themselves start editing their own orders mid-sentence. Whether the heart is divine crystal or perfect theater, the effect is identical. She wins the moment you begin to second guess. Lady Malys is not a butcher, she is a surgeon. She doesn't need a bigger army, she needs a better question, and she will make sure you answer it wrong. She moves pieces you didn't notice onto squares you didn't name, and then congratulates you for choosing the only losing path available. If the Webway dual tale is even half true, she may be the only Eldar who beat a god at a game and then use the prize as spare parts. In Commorragh, that isn't blasphemy, that's Tuesday. That's Lady Malys, weaponized elegance, patient violence, and the quiet certainty that fate is a tool for those who know where to put the hinge. Watch the next dossier on Warhammer lore, right there on your screen.